guys, Malkuth 1974 coming back at you with another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. This is a little special edition of Kerbal Space Program, or my Kerbal Space Mission Control, where we're going to concentrate on the civilian space program. I got a few things I want to show you here. My very first orbiter and lander for the civilian space program. Now, the rules of this program is that I can only use 1mm, 1.5mm, whatever size these things are, the smallest size parts for this program, and that's one of the main rules. The second major rule is that the Kerbal government allowing civilian organizations and civilian corporations to delve into space does not allow the use of nuclear engines, so no Nerva engines for us, or any kind of nuclear engine, or the nuclear, it's not the nuclear thing, it's the little atomic, whatever the hell that little thing is that charges your batteries instead of using solar power arrays. We can't use that either. So yeah, so this is the first lander. It was a 2-pod version for 2 people. Kind of moved on, but yeah. It's kind of neat how this works. Let me see if I can show you guys some other things here. This is another version. This is this one goes to the moon, and another 2-pod version. It's got a little bit more fuel. Oh, and speaking of the moon, I actually do got to show you something. Let's see here. Now, one of the oldest space stations I have in my my current game is one that's over the moon, and I was going to abandon it and actually have it be destroyed, but instead the civilians decided to buy it and take care of it and supply it, and now you can see I got the shuttle pod right there. It's a very small station, it's not very big at all. The new space station that's over the moon is much better, but that's obviously run by the Kerbal government, so that's the thing. What I'm showing you right there was the supply pod. So as the commercial venture in here, I've decided to make you know, civilians will supply the Kerbals with everything. Now this is the newest invention from the humans. I'm saying the commercial interest in Kerbal Space Civilian Program. And how this works, it's actually a 3-man pod. There's 2 on the side there, and it's got the front cockpit. And if you look at the bottom, I'm using jet engines as the first stage to get this vessel into space. This is a prototype. I haven't used it all that much. I spent most of my time just kind of getting this part right here to actually work, and it's done a few things. The whole purpose of it is to be totally reusable, so it has does have parachutes when it gets ejected. And right now I'm starting up the engine, spooling them up, letting them get 2 going a little bit. I also on this vessel have this mod that allows you to add Kerbals to different areas of the ship that they won't start. So when you put pods on the side like that, Kerbals won't actually go in there, so we have to actually add them. I think that's the crew manifest mod. So here we go. Again, this is all jet engines, and only the jet engines are on right now. They can get to you to about 16,000 meters. And if you're wondering why everything's going kind of fast, I do have this sped up. I'm actually doing this commentary after the fact that I recorded it. I didn't really like how it came out when I actually did it. So, here we go. We are off and running. I'm going to start my gravity turn a little bit earlier than usual in here, just because I want to get the speed of these jet engines up as fast as I possibly can before it gets to about 16 or 17,000. It's usually when I have to drop the engines, because they die out right about there. So you can tell all the Kerbals are nice and happy, doing some more gravity turns. And right here I'm showing my air intake, for I can watch when my air intake is going. And I've noticed different things that what matters what setup you have. It can go at any time. If you're wondering what I'm using for fuel, the jet engines are just hooked to regular fuel. There's no oxidation, and it makes it very light stage. That way you're not using a regular, fuel and oxidation that jet engines don't need. Oh, and there they go. I just dropped them, and you can see they got parachutes on them. So I do have to work on that a little bit. Now, like I said, this is a prototype. It's going to go to the space station right now. It's heading up there right now. It's going to put 2 civilians on the station. Another rule set I had for the civilians was that they are allowed to use Kerbal space programs, actual space stations they have in orbit. And what else here? What can I say? Oh, and the Kerbal space program, since it's such a mundane type of thing and it's kind of reflecting real life in our own NASA program, is that they have regulated the commercial interest to start supplying the vessels, the space stations with supplies, food, toilet paper, all that wonderful stuff that Kerbals need. I don't know, maybe they have their own version of SpongeBob, Square Kerbal or something they have up there. I don't know. Just to entertain everybody on there. Now this one stage of rocket can usually get me all the way to where I need to get, which is right there. And then I'm going to drop the stage, get rid of it because we still don't want to litter our area. And there's enough energy or enough fuel in this the normal part of the stage, the top stage, to get us where I need to get and circularized. And what I've noticed here is that the space station's behind me, so I actually want to be above his orbit. That way I'm going slower than him. And when I get to the Apple-Apis there, I'm going to start burning towards prograde, and we're going to get the periaps up. Again, everything's in kind of super speed for we can just get this moving. I'm also noticing while I'm doing all these maneuvers that this vessel is very awkward to move around, and I think what I've done wrong is that I put all of the 2 extra pods facing the same direction. So usually when you try to double them up, the program, to make it symmetric, will have one pod facing one way and the other one facing the other way, so the doors are opposite. I decided I didn't like that, so I decided to actually make them go in the same way, and obviously it's causing me problems with moving this vessel around when I actually need to move it. And I'm thinking at this point it's going to be difficult to actually dock with the space station, since the docking port is actually on top of the vessel and not on its nose, which is usually what I'm used to actually doing this. And now just doing the intercept here, trying to get closer to him. He's caught up. I'm looking over there. Yep, looks like a good intercept. Gonna fast forward it, trying to save fuel. Oh, and another major thing about the civilian program, they are not allowed to use Mechjeb. Mechjeb is a government-only top secret program, and civilians are not allowed to have it. So that's that. I'm still trying to get the line up correctly. There we go. If you guys don't know how to dock, I did make a docking, a rendezvous video on how to rendezvous and dock, so this is all pretty natural to me. Just keep getting everything close as I can, trying to save fuel. I think I messed up a little bit in there, that's why I had to do it again. Again, this thing is hard to move around. Oh, and there's the space station right there. Remembered station. I do think it looks pretty cool with the pods on there. I did redesign this later before it had 3 pods, which balanced it out a lot better, which also allowed me to bring 1 more Kerbal up. So with the commercial interest, having 3 passengers is a lot better than having just 2. The stage still gets me to orbit, but it will not get me high enough where we saw in that one, so we had to make some sacrifices to add some more fuel tanks. We'll see in another episode, the new version of this. Again, everything's in super fast mode with super editing. Editing is one of the only way. Going retrograde right here for I can slow down. And of course, there's no lights on this version. I did end up putting lights on the second version, so I do like these small ships. They're extremely easy to control once if you get them balanced correctly. This one's not balanced correctly, so it's not. But super easy to dock with, super easy to control. And what you want to see the difference here. This is a 1mm ship. Right next to it is a 2. That right there is a 2mm shuttle. That one goes from that's a Kerbal Space Program, government funded space shuttle with nuclear engines that goes from low Kerbal orbit to moon orbit or even Minmus orbit, back and forth. It carries astronauts and stuff. So here we go. I'm just trying to get on the docking port. Like I said, the docking port's on the top. I'm using that particular thing. I'm having a hell of a time trying to. I knew I would have a hell of a time getting this thing to line up, because every time you do one way, it wants to push the other way because of the torque of how the two pods aren't counteracting each other. They're working with each other. So and it's looking like I'm gonna do an awesome job here. I'm like, yeah, and I start turning. I'm like, oh no, 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 and bang! I smacked into the base a little bit, which ended up smacking me away. Had to level it out, bring it back over. And probably in the real world, that would have been actually devastating, because everything we send up in space is quite fragile. But this is just a game, and we're allowed to make massive mistakes like that. So, gonna line right back up here. I'm gonna use my thrusters to get me close. There we go. So again, yep, so all the rules of using civilian equipment, obviously it's a pretty big hindrance. Only using the 1mm, the smallest version of everything that you can use. So, but the government likes this design, and they are thinking of actually contracting out with the civilians to carry astronauts up to this station every time they need to transfer astronauts to and from Kerbal. It's a lot cheaper. This version, getting this in space, expense-wise, fuel-wise, is actually extremely cheap, because it uses the jet engines, which do not use a whole lot of fuel like you would doing an asparagus method. And of course, the whole jet part is reusable. It does fall back to KSC and can be patched up, repaired, and put back into service. So very cheap to get. Now it would be actually 4 Kerbals up into space, with the 3 pods plus the cockpit would be 4 Kerbals. Which wouldn't be possible without the crew manifest mod, because like I said, the program is limited to only putting a Kerbal in the first pod that it sees. It doesn't put Kerbals into the other ones, so the crew manifest allows me to add more Kerbals to the ship. Here we go, we're coming in this time. This time we'll do well. Again, it's still giving me some trouble. You can see how it twists like that every time I try to adjust it a little bit. It's easier with when you're in this mode, because SAS will actually fix the problems. But when you go into the other mode, by default, SAS isn't on, so you actually start noticing more of this stuff. Again, I like using docking with this camera. I don't like chase camera at all. And I dock by my eyeball. I know a lot of people will dock by putting the station a certain way and then having your ship face a certain way. I don't do that. I just eyeball it. Every docking I do it that way. Gets me right in there. There we go. We are docked. docked and happy. So, I just thought I would introduce you guys to the civilian program and how it's going to work. You know, cost and maintenance is important because we need to be able to put Kerbals into space without costing too much money. We're going to get this guy to go onto the space station. Another civilian that has paid money to visit space. Great way to pay for future missions into the space program. So, as always guys, this is Malkuth 1974. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you later. Hopefully we'll have some more interesting missions coming next. And we'll see you guys later. Enjoy.